Welcome into Celtics Late Night. Ben Vallis here along with Jake Eisenberg. And Jake, that was a seriously impressive win. How you doing, man?
We're back. It feels good. It feels good. It feels good. That was the last couple games. I mean, this one obviously much bigger game, much better team. TNT, like KD, Booker, Beal, all healthy, have been really good. A team that people are unwilling to write off, a team that nobody wants to play, quote unquote. And Celtics kind of just dispatched them. Just another drubbing. And it was across the board. It was like you can just, what kind of flavor? What do you feel like? You know, do you want dessert first? Do you want some, the fine wine of Al Horford? Do you want the young pup in Jason Tatum? Like you really can choose your delicacy when it comes to Celtics stuff today, and it feels good.
Yeah, for the Celtics, it feels like a yum cha in some of these games. It's like, bring me the fucking mango pancake first. I don't care. Like, I can just eat whatever I want whenever I want.
Right, whatever's coming
I'm a
fast.
fucking king.
Yeah.
So good. 127 to 112 was the final score, and the Celtics are now 52-14, which is amazing. They've got a 10-game lead in the East now, Jake. They're 30-3 at home, and in this one, like I said, seriously impressive win. First game home after a long road trip, really tight turnaround. They had the back-to-back, traveled across country, one day off, and then straight back into it. You've got a healthy Phoenix Suns playing with purpose, Jake, fighting for seeding, Jake. The lights go out as the ball tips.
I know that.
Everything could have gone against the Celtics. Kevin Durant was hot early. They
Yeah.
shut him down later in the game. I think maybe the Suns also kind of shut him down as well, weirdly. But this is a game that you could have forgiven the Celtics for losing and said they came out and pantsed the Suns, eclipsed the Suns, Jake. It's a great game.
Eclipse the Suns. I'm very thankful I didn't see any cornet contest tonight. No eclipsing. But yeah, it's
Not
like
necessary.
the Wolf of Wall Street scene with McConaughey and Leo. Just like we want two double vodka martinis from every 5 minutes until one of us passes out. I can consume this Celtics nonsense content, pornography, until I die. And like this is. Like, I'm enjoying this. Like, I know there's people that are like, just start the playoffs. I'm ready. One, we don't want to start the playoffs yet because Kristaps Porzingis, I'm not sure, is quite ready for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But I'm just enjoying the good times, man. Like this is just stress-free basketball. And to win a game like tonight without the beautiful Latvian man who he's clearly happy to be back home. He's got his wardrobe under control once again. It looked like he'd lost his luggage in Portland because he was wearing Al Horford's sweatsuits. But he was back to his Latvian mafia boss ways here. So Al Horford, look, it's late night. We're going to jump around. But so we are officially 17-3 without Kristaps Porzingis this season.
That's fucking crazy,
That's insane.
man.
And like part of it, I think, is like just like being semi-strategic about when they're resting him here and there. But like that's a 70-win pace. And so like I've been saying this since like the beginning of the season, pretty much. Like with Kristaps Porzingis, I think there's a world where we like kind of cruise to the finals. But without Kristaps Porzingis, we can still make the finals. Like this team, with or without Porzingis, is a monster. Part of that is the addition of Tillman, the way that Brad has built the front court depth of this team. But I mean, Al Horford tonight.
Oh my gosh.
And like, not only was it just like an awesome game and like helped us win the game, but like he was so important. And like if he doesn't have the first quarter that he has, or like the first half of the first quarter, then this game maybe goes a little bit differently. Like in the first quarter, he goes 3 for 5, 2 for 3 from 3, 8 points in the first quarter, but it was all early. It felt like he had 8 of those points early in the quarter when like the physicality of the Suns was impressive, and it felt like it took the Celtics half a quarter to adjust, and the Celtics were having issues, and Al Horford puts on the cape, dude, and saved the day.
Yeah, dude. The threes that he was hitting, it was like the entire Celtics squad was struggling. The Suns were really benefiting. It's almost like they had a heads up before the game as to how much the refs were going to allow this game to be as physical as it was, and they seemed to benefit from that early. Al Horford hitting threes, chipping away, keeping us in the game. And then it was like the Celtics suddenly realized, oh, that's how we're going to play the game. Okay, let me introduce you to Jaylen Brown, the 240-pound, 6'7" beast of a cannonball, who just like the cannonball is the right word. He cannonballed his way into the paint like a little mini Zion, not even that much smaller than Zion, into the paint relentlessly, and it was just like, oh, we can play this way now? Fantastic. I'm going to take advantage of this. So one of the things I jotted down during the game, Jake, was to ask you, like, do you think that this physical play style that the refs are allowing post All-Star break, and it's been something that's been discussed on various podcasts since the All-Star break, including ours yesterday, do you think it benefits the Celtics? And if so, is it on one particular end or is it on both ends?
This is fantastic for the Celtics. And it's both ends. Defensively, I honestly hadn't really considered the defense as much as how it pertains to both Jaylen and Jason, because that's kind of the most important thing at the end of the day. But defensively, I think you saw it with Drew, who struggled early. He was defensively, I think he was having some issues. He didn't seem super locked in, having some issues with Beal's quickness. But then once it became clear of what kind of physicality they were allowing, he had the great wall of Holiday stop on Beal, who just like collided into him in the corner, gets a deflection and a loose ball. I think defensively, if you're allowing Jaylen and Drew and like specifically maybe those two, because they like the way they play defense is so physical, where Tatum and Derek are incredible defenders, but they're not necessarily overwhelming guys with their sturdiness or their girth. So if it defensively, and Al Horford, when he likes to guard, he likes to have that like that hand kind of like on guys' hips and stuff, and sometimes he can get called for it.
Yeah.
So defensively, I think we've talked about how this Celtics defense is going to be when the Celtics haters, the people that doubt the Celtics, always come back to the Celtics offense and the threes and the whole whatever, which we've debunked many times, but. The defense is going like under the radar despite it being the second best defense in the NBA somehow, because I think that when you get to the playoffs, the old adage, defense wins championships. If you're allowing this defense to be even more physical and more locked in, then like that can be a trump card.
Yeah, we've got this roster where like unless Pritchard's in for extended time, like we don't really offer up that many disadvantages on the defensive end really at all. And with Drew and with Derek out there, the Jays and either Horford or Porzingis, like we've got big, long, dimensionally strong Jake, juggernauts who can, if they're allowed to throw their physicality and their size and girth, as you say, around, and that can only benefit them. That's on the defensive end. And then I really cannot emphasize enough how fun it is to watch Jaylen Brown like trucking people, just like, because and for Tatum as well, who the chicken wing, the offhand, the off arm has been problematic for him sort of in his career up until like I guess 2 weeks ago technically, if these rule changes are going to remain in place. Fantastic for the Celtics offensively as well. The Jays are going to absolutely cook if they're allowed to chicken wing and just like fuck guys up, for lack of a better term, on their way to the bucket. And in particular for Jaylen Brown, it's like a superpower. It seems unfair how he's just allowed to just freelance his way to the cup using his 240-pound, 6'7" frame. It's unfair. If I was a Suns fan, I'm yet to check their subreddit and their Twitter replies. I would be so pissed off because he was just roughhousing dudes there. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Oh my god, yeah, I think the Zion comp's actually really good, and I think someone in the chat here had like mini Giannis with a 3-ball. Yeah, blow up here, mini Giannis with a 3. I think like and this is the change. Like Jaylen was always good at getting downhill and like aggressive Jaylen. We've always enjoyed him as a player, but the way that he has put on size and strength now, combined with this new mentality, I mean, he's absolutely just put stuff on his shoulders. He's like wants to be the emotional leader of this team, and he absolutely is. And like, yeah, and even here, DJ Daniel comparing him to LeBron, and it's not, obviously very different players for a variety of reasons. But LeBron does this thing where he gets downhill and he's kind of moves. It's kind of like the off arm thing, but he uses his shoulder as opposed to the forearm, bicep, tricep area and just kind of discards people. And like allowing like Jaylen developing that part of his game and then the refs allowing him to really lean into that. I mean, it just becomes like this snowball thing. One, it's like it's good because Jaylen gets away with more, but like he's trying to enforce his mentality and physicality on the game. The refs are allowing that, which emboldens him to do it even more, which emboldens the rest of the team to play more physical. And like when this Celtics team's playing physical, when Tatum in particular, I think that's like the one spot where like I think when Tatum embraces physicality, and we saw that a lot, I think in the first half as well. It can take him a little bit more time to adjust to the physicality, and even Jaylen early too. Like Tatum and Jaylen were trying to post up against Beal and Booker and Grayson Allen, and like the Suns were like battering ramming both Jaylen and Jason. They were having trouble moving those guys, and so they started attacking in some different ways. But like once they figured out, I think people were just confused. Even in this game, they were like letting some things go or a lot go, but then also calling ticky-tack fouls. So it felt like the players were a little confused as to what is and was not allowed. But Tatum, once he embraces the physicality, it's like we've been trying to, remind Tatum that he's a 6'9", broad-shouldered individual since his second year in the league. But he's getting stronger and more physical as time goes on. But I think this has the potential to be the most positive for Tatum. I think it can potentially go the other way at times, but if he fully embraces it, it becomes a thing in the NBA. It's like, be physical. That's when Tatum's at his best, because once he leans into it, no one can stop him.
Yeah, and I think offensively, as long as he expects the contact and knows that that's going to be allowed, I don't think it'll trouble him that much. It seems to be, and you mentioned it, like JB in particular adjusted to the tone of this game from the refereeing standpoint really quickly, and that was kind of the crux of the game. Like we understood early how this game was going to be officiated, and then we played accordingly. We slotted into what was being allowed to us, and that can be a weakness sometimes for Jason Tatum. But I think as long as this is consistent league-wide with the officiating and he understands the level of contact that's coming to him every night, like we've seen him like adjust his game to multiple levels of allowed contact throughout his career, and that's been one of the most inconsistent factors for Jason Tatum is adjusting to the sort of contact that's allowed. And is he going to play through it? Is he going to look for the foul? How is he going to approach that? And as long as it's consistent, then I have faith that he'll adjust accordingly. And Troy in the chat had a really good point here that it really benefits our team and that they're getting like playoff style calls a month before the playoffs, which again, as long as the refs are consistent with this, then that bodes really well for the Celtics going forward. So yeah, looking at the game, I guess holistically, I think that's the crux of it, is the guys understanding the tone and adjusting. But the guys were really sluggish early in this game, like incredibly so. And I was beginning to write the obituary of like, this is fine, everybody. First game back after a long road trip. This is completely fine. This is a completely understandable loss. And then as the game got going, you sort of started to understand how, from the outside perspective, this was kind of a huge game, if not for us, then at least for the Suns, like coming in, fighting for seeding and trying to prove themselves as far as what they look like as a healthy team. And it felt like, again, going back to understanding the tone of the game, the Celtics kind of got wind of that and picked up their play as well. And the stock exchange really started to pick up their defensive prowess. Derek and Drew were incredible in this game. We had Jason Tatum going at Kevin Durant. I think I've got the highlights here of Jason Tatum's end to the first half, which was incredible. This is 2 games against Kevin Durant in a row where JT just chooses a pocket of the game to go at Kevin Durant and succeeds on both occasions.
Looks for right, 3, no. Tatum got the loose ball, 3 over Durant. What a shot. Terrific sequence. 20 for Tatum. With about a minute to go in the second quarter. Booker with a 3. Rebound White. Collusion with Nurkic as the Celtics will go the other way. 4-point lead. Led by 3 will go.
Objectively a bad shot. Objectively a bad shot, but so good. I'm sorry for everyone watching on YouTube. I really should have expanded that that video before uploading. But Yeah, Jake, where do you want to take this?
I mean, yeah, variety of ways here. I mean, I was just gonna say, going back to Jaylen briefly, and he talked about in the post game about his overall improved mentality and attacking his weaknesses, which, like, Eric Weiss, who's a friend of the program, like, player development guy, like, most people in the world, no, let alone basketball players, but like, people don't want to work on the things that they suck at. It's way easier to do the things that you're already good at and just get better at them, because it's like, it's easier to get out of bed and do the things you know you're going to be able to do. For Jaylen Brown to like be very self-aware that like, here he is, the big dog. For Jaylen Brown to come out of that Miami series and like, he's really talked about it a fair bit, but like, to look at his pinnacle failure, like as a professional, like dead in the eyes, sign the $300 million contract, and then come back and work on the things that were the reason that the Celtics essentially didn't make the finals. Because even though Game 7 was like the Magnus Opus,
First one.
Of his like weaknesses, like throughout the series, he struggled, and that's kind of what Miami has done to Jaylen in the past. And so for him to look at that stuff, dead in the eyes, go through whatever he went through in the off season, whatever vision quest he had to go through, climb into Mordor and throw away the left hand and get a new one back, or however Mordor works. But I really respect it, man. It's
however Mordor works.
I've seen the first one, so yeah, we
you weren't compelled to continue on the journey with Frodo and Sam after the first one.
But yeah, it's Jaylen, man. I'm super impressed, and someone in the chat here was saying like the Celtics look better with Jaylen as like a 1A. This is not how this team works to me. Like it's not even 1A, 1B, but I love that like this team needed the mentality that Jaylen has brought, and we haven't talked about Joe yet, but like I feel like Joe has the same mentality, and we can talk about Joe Mazzulla here, I think, as well. But
I want to get to Joe in a second. We've got a couple of Jaylen clips to run here first, but the thing with Jaylen, this is a question for you. Like, would you prefer the quote-unquote easy road to the finals where we avoid the heat, or like, given this spicy juncture of Jaylen's career where we're at, and he seems to be elevating himself to sort of like an unpredictable height. Like, I think for a lot of people, he's kind of risen above the ceiling that people had set for him. Do you kind of want to see the heat in that sense as like the ultimate measuring stick early for like, how does Jaylen Brown respond to that? Does he continue elevating his game and just like put away the heat in 5 games? Or are you like, this has been fun, but I'm not ready for that, and I would love to avoid the heat at all costs?
If you can guarantee that we beat the Heat in 5, then yeah, give me that option.
No,
absolutely.
Not a guarantee.
Yeah, so
Absolutely
I want the easiest possible path. I want Pacers in round 1. I want Magic in round 2. I want Cavs in round 3, and I want the Suns in the finals. Like that's the path I want. I don't give a shit about the path being difficult. We had in the 22 finals, we had Kyrie and KD in round 1, which is absurd, and then we got Giannis in round 2, the 1 seed Heat, and then the freaking dynastic Steph Curry Warriors. No thanks, dude. And our best players were just destroyed mentally by the time they got there.
Yep.
But give me the easy route. But I do think that he's ready to slay any demons in the Eastern Conference, specifically the Heat. So I'm easy either way.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get. I agree. Like, test Jaylen literally any other time. Like, let's just win the championship. It's overdue.
Yes,
at this
give
point.
me the Mickey Mouse ring, dude. I don't care. Don't care at all.
I'll take any ring at this stage. This is Jaylen Brown. I can't remember if this has sound. We'll see. This is Jaylen Brown. Just an insane shot. The level of wow shot making for Jaylen Brown has again elevated and been taken up another notch in recent weeks. But this is one from the fourth.
18 with the Suns. Shot clock at 4. Brown makes a move. O'Neal is there to meet him along with Wainwright. And he's still going to go.
Sorry, but falling over into
unreal.
double coverage and still swishing the shot, that's
Dude,
crazy.
What is that, man? He's surrounded. He honestly probably got fouled too. Like he had someone underneath him as well. Like he's the tear that he's on from the All-Star break on now is absolutely absurd. Like I think if he continues this to the end of the season, he's gonna make All NBA because if he's playing like this, like now that we've won 4 in a row again, by the way, like, you know, we lost those 2 games. We're back to winning 4 in a row. Like we're going to end up winning, like we're on pace to win 64.5. Now we had dropped back down to like 63.5. We're back up to 64.5. If we win the Wizards and the Pistons games, we're going to be on pace for a 65 plus again. So like, it's just insane. And so like, if he's going to play like this and they win 66 games or 65 games, then he's going to make second team All NBA, and he's going to fucking deserve it even more than he did last year as well. Because this year is going to be positionless, so in theory it might be a little more tricky. But yeah, JJ Redick and the dunker spot guys. We're talking about Jaylen Brown for all defense. He popped up briefly on Zach Lowe's part as well. Like it's across the board. Everything is a career high except for the free throws, which I think today he shot. I was going to say, at one point in the fourth quarter, he was shooting 68% from the field and 70% from 3 and 66% from the field from free throws. And it's like, yeah, that kind of checks out right now. Is that like for whatever reason the free throws are the one thing that he can't do, but like the free throws don't matter. If he's going to shoot 65% from the free throw line, but he's going to do everything else he's doing right now, it actually doesn't matter. So we'll take it.
I mean, getting to the finals where the margins matter so greatly, I think I would like him to start hitting his free throws like an NBA player. But I look at 4 and 6 and I'm like, oh, good. Only one trip where he missed both. Yeah. Right? That's the way that, and maybe I'm just a sickened Celtics fan if that's the way that I perceive those stats. But that's where I'm at with Jaylen. Everything else is fantastic though.
Yeah, he can't make free throws right now, and it's definitely a mental thing. So unfortunately, like, I think it's probably going to pop up at some point in the playoffs. But that's a trade I'm willing to take right now. Is this version of Jaylen if he's going to be doing that?
Well, look, we've got one more clip on Jaylen here, and then we've got another clip to transition us to our next subject, which is going to be Joe Mazzulla. Crazy Joe Mazzulla and the awesome attempted block. But first, here is Jaylen Brown. This is credit to Noah Dalzell, who recorded this from, I guess, the press room at TD Garden. Jaylen talking about improving his game coming into this season.
How hard is it to kind of like look at yourself and say, I have this thing that I need to fix, like in the loss, to say, I am responsible for this much of the loss, and to make that personal change?
Yeah, people can go one or two ways. And for me, like, you see a lot of people when things don't go their way, or if they lose or make a mistake or get embarrassed, it can be like a spirit breaker. But like, ain't nothing in this world gonna break my spirit. So for me, it was only one way I could go, and that was just to improve. And that was just to get better. Just look at yourself in the mirror, take whatever, it is on the chin. I don't make no excuses. I don't point no fingers. I mean, that's always been my mentality, so we just get better and we leave it all out on the floor, and live with those results.
Thank you, Jaylen.
I can't wait for the Bucks game. I was just like, he's gonna kill them in a series, dude. Like he is they cannot do anything with Jaylen Brown. He's always had a good time playing against the Bucks, and now Drew Holiday's on our team as opposed to their team. And I think like Jaylen can kind of guard Giannis a little bit too now. Like the fact that he's 240 pounds. I think, and I think he's going to want to as well, which is awesome. Like, what a guy, dude. I'm glad he's on my team. Like, let me tell you that.
He's playing the best ball of his life by far, and like not just from a skill standpoint, but from a physicality standpoint. He's like quite literally in his prime, and what a feeling. We should transition rather to this whole Joe Mazzulla thing. I did have a clip queued up because this has caught a lot of attention online already. Here we go.
Well, they've had 8 Celtics take 6 threes of them. And shot 50%, and that's a high percentage shot too.
Brown puts an exclamation point on it.
I mean,
How good.
To me, personally, that is the coolest fucking thing ever.
Awesome.
I have absolutely no problems with that. And to me, it should set the standard for all Celtics coaching staff from here on in. Like, that is the mentality that you need to fucking show up with, to be willing to walk onto the court and block a shot attempt, albeit after the dead ball, which I think makes it even more okay. But that's like one of the coolest things I've ever seen, Jake.
It's funny, right? Like, Joe has had his share of haters, and after Ime was like a coach for the boomers, and like people that like really, and like when you watch sports, we all end up turning into a boomer a little bit, right? We just like we want everybody just to be on the floor. We want like the classic Celtics grit culture, dive, bleeding, carried out in a wheelchair, come back, like just toughness. And Joe is that guy. This is very KG of him. And like obviously Joe can only do so much from that perspective as the coach, but like he's clearly tried to implement as much of this like psychotic mentality onto this Celtics team in his own way. He's not Ime and that he's like this ex-NBA like tough guy dude who's gonna like call players' names. Joe's like this kind of wisdomous Kung Fu Panda, Master Shifu type
Confucius
character.
kind of guy.
Like,
yeah.
but also psychotic jujitsu will try and rip your head off and guard. Like, it just recently, John Wall and Boogie Cousins are talking about how Joe Mazzulla's guarding Boogie Cousins and like giving him trouble in college for a guy that just had like no business, like was never had any chance to make it in the NBA. Like he's imprinting this like very, very tough mentality onto this team in the way that he knows best. I love that it's like a top down like policy. It does not matter who you are or what. Live ball, dead ball, they do not get shots up. We're contesting everything. And he did it safely. Like this guy, if anybody knows how to contest, it's his bulldog. He was never had a chance of landing in Royce O'Neal's airspace. It's just good old fashioned, good times, grit, coaching. Get him, Joe.
It is funny how I think we talked about this last show as well, Jake. But the closer you get to people who are closer to the team, so like media, in any sort of tier, I was about to refer to us as media, but obviously we're not. We're sort of in that inner rim just outside of the media, I think is probably fair to say. But you hear media folks talk about Joe's actions on the court, like today, and then his reactions when asked about it in the post-game presses, and it's a little bit like, oh, like how dare he? Yeah. It's such an egregious offense to the game and the standard set for coaches out there and how one should react to questions in the media. It's just the coolest fucking thing ever. And like the game has evolved. We've seen an evolution of the game on the court and with how players are expected to conduct themselves off the court that has sort of fluctuated throughout the years. Why not for coaches? Why can't we have crazy Joe Mazzulla come in here and start to reset the standard of expectations for coaches and how they conduct themselves around the court? And Joe's a young guy. He's like not the oldest guy, including all of the players as well. Al Horford is 37 years old. Joe's like 34, 35, just a young fella. So, of course, he's got a bit of grit, bit of grind. Of course, he's going to run out there and try and block a post-dead ball shot. Not a big deal. No one was hurt. I'm surprised that there's some furor about this because to me it's not nothing. It's everything, but in the most awesome way possible.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see if there's anything that pops up like from a like serious reaction perspective. To me, it all seems like pretty harmless, good fun, and like fun coaching. It's like the only thing I care about from this perspective is do the players like it and love this about Joe? And everybody that was asked about it today just like instantly starts laughing. So like they like if Jaylen and Jason think it's cool and or like not necessarily cool, but a thing that they embrace about Joe, then I'm all for it. So and like it's very easy to see how this would be something that like players enjoy and something that like they can appreciate about their coach. Like it's just that he's competitive and trying to add his own stamp on the team like that, and especially someone like Jaylen who definitely appreciates people like being being themselves and being unique and embracing each other's differences. Get a little Confucius myself over here every once in a while, but yeah, like I think that, like, you know, we got some wise individuals, specifically Jaylen, on this team, and yeah, it's clear that Jaylen especially appreciates it. Back to what I was saying before, it's like the mentality of the team feels like it's coming directly from Joe and Jaylen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the spiritual octopus, all the arms undulating out in every direction, touching everyone.
Yes.
I'm gonna end the analogy there.
I know the one.
We've got a lot more to come here. We're hanging out. We're having a good time. We're rudderless. We've got no run sheet, but I think we will chuck this up on the podcast feed because the vibes are immaculate after an incredible win against Kevin Durant's Suns. But here's a quick word first from our sponsor.
Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's a tournament season or the fight for a playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Prize Picks is really simple to play, and I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Use the code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Yeah, so Prize Picks is a fun way to supplement your in-game experience. I've been using it recently, obviously, because they sponsor this show and all the other CLNS shows. If you do sign up, then use the code CLNS. That helps our show out. Our bosses somehow realize when you've used the code based off our recommendation. That really helps our show. So if you're going to sign up, please use that code CLNS. And it is a lot of fun to set those less or mores on sort of various props heading into the game and allowing that to supplement your viewing experience. So Prize Picks, code CLNS, sign up, have a good time, and help out the show. Before we get to Al Horford, Jake, who was incredible, and I want to spend like a solid amount of time on Al Horford, just as Al Horford spent a solid amount of time dominating this game. Jason Tatum, I don't think like we ran that clip of the stretch to end the half, and it's only 2 games, including the Jazz game for Tatum, but he seems like he's kind of like starting to emerge from that slump a little bit. He was pretty efficient in this one. Didn't
3-game slump.
Yeah, sure. 3-game slump, which gets way too much attention, including from myself, who obsesses over these things. But Tatum in this one, 10 of 18 from the field, including like some end of shot clock heaves that weren't necessary. So he was actually more efficient than the box score indicates. 4 of 8 from 3. Only got to the line a few times, but finished a plus 26 in this game, a team high along with Drew Holiday. He seems like he's kind of back, and he was incredible in this game, I thought.
And Julius Rickles in the chat here. He really wants Tatum to be the 1B to Jaylen's 1A here. I keep seeing you pop up here, but go back and watch the second half. So like statistically, so Tatum in the first half was like unreal and was 9 for 11 with 23 points, and then he goes 1 for 7 in the second half, but he has 4 assists, and the entire second half they're just doubling him, and like that's always going to be the biggest difference between Jaylen and Jason, and why Jaylen is able to do what he does in part is because Tatum just receives way more attention and way more gravity and way more help from opposing defenses. It's just a fact. Whether or not you agree with that defenses should be assigning their resources differently, they should be assigning more resources to slow down Jaylen Brown as opposed to Tatum. It's just not what happens. And so Tatum is the 1A on everybody's opposing team's scouting reports. And the way that he passed the ball in this game, like he ended the game with 5 assists, but man, he had a bunch of ridiculous passes that did not end in assists as well. And that's been the thing that we've probably been the most focused on post like January, really, has been his development in playmaking. Like that's been the biggest jump that we've noticed from Tatum this year. And so that was good to see the return of. I'm seeing just Julius Rickles in the chat here because more chance of turnovers. Like it's just not true. Like Jaylen is the guy that the Heat were really able to tear apart with the ball handling and stuff. It's like Kevin Durant. Like he has some turnover issues as well, but it's like we're not doubling Booker or Beal. We know that Kevin Durant is the guy that can destroy you. It also helps that he is more willing to turn the ball over a little bit. But I thought Tatum decision-making wise, and again, does you talk about the sacrifice kind of the piece of it, just kind of letting the game come to him a little bit, didn't force it in the second half, really moved the ball. But yeah, just a nice, solid, building. Like if you just get this version of Tatum in the playoffs, and this team's going to, it's really hard to beat.
Yeah, I think that's... this is not a hot take at all, but it's going to be what it takes to win it all this year is like this ultimate version of Jason Tatum who understands his own gravity and understands what he's got around him and how to benefit from the gravity that he has as far as attracting the opposing team's defense. And then similarly, Jaylen Brown having equal, if not greater awareness of how he can take advantage of JT's situation, not to mention Derek White and Drew, who's coming along nicely in that sense too. Like it really has to be that universal awareness of how everybody individually is capable of manipulating an opposing team's defense, and everybody, therefore, as a group, as one, working to manipulate that offensively. So this game was a really, really good example of that. And I think the Jazz game was too, despite some of the absences we had there. So great points. Al Horford. We have to hit on Al Horford, who had I was going to say a career high, a season high, 24 points, was fantastic on both ends, switching relentlessly and without shame, definitely being burnt a few times, like getting switched, even by guys like Grayson Allen and certainly Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, like getting burnt occasionally, but not giving up the switch. Or rather not playing drop and allowing those guys to get off open threes or open mid-range shots and switching on everything. And then threes for days on the other end. And flat line drive threes, but they were still going down consistently. Al was incredibly consistent in this one. Like, name another team, really historically, who's, in the case of Porzingis, their starting center who earns at least $30 million per year, can be out this much, and for the team to have such a successful, you said it before, 70-win pace with their starting high-paid center out of the game. Enter Al Horford, 37 years old. We've managed his load really, really well this year. He comes in, just has an incredible game, Jake.
Unbelievable. I just want to bathe in Al Horford juice for the rest of my life. This guy, he's just a legendary Celtic. And we have to get this man a freaking ring. Like I said it from before, the jump. I want to know how this game turns out. I don't want to know. I wonder how this game turns out if Al Horford doesn't turn up immediately. So it's Suns go up 4-0. Celtics, Al Horford hits a 3, 4-3. And then the Suns go up 6-3. Horford hits a 2, 6-5. Then the Suns go up 10-8 with the Jaylen 3 in there. Beal hits a 3, they're up 15-8. It's oh man, they're off to a good start. Bang, Horford hits a 3, 15-11. And that's essentially, okay, now the game's stabilized and then everybody starts to come. He has 8 big points, big, nuts shots as well. And that's what they, whatever the game needs, it feels like he's able to give it to them, whether that's with KP playing or not. Starting with KP, coming off the bench, just the absolute professional. And Drew... In the post game, I think it was, he was just I got the quote here. Al's the OG, but he's the most reliable player I've ever played with. Being able to be on the court with him is an honor. Being out there with him, I just know everything's gonna go well. Preach it. I can listen to the words like that just all day long. Yeah, it's an honor to root for a guy like that.
Yeah, Al's the guy where if you invite a bunch of people around for a party, a barbecue, and you're like, shit, we forgot to get ice. He's like, I have an esky in my car. It's built into the boot. I've got ice. I carry ice with me everywhere. I make sure it doesn't melt because that's how awesome I am.
I love it. Yeah, exactly.
I'll be right back with ice.
Yeah, it's it also has speakers attached to the esky. Don't worry, guys.
Power source. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got everything.
I've also got, bocce when we're having the best time in Al Horford's.
Bocce, baby wipes, everything you
yeah.
could possibly need.
He's the fun.
He's the best.
He's the fun sheriff. He's just Uncle Al taking care of everybody. He's got everything we need. He's awesome, man. And like again, like leadership, consistency, like taking young guys under their wing, like Jordan Walsh talking about like how he and Jaden Springer being like, oh no, it was Tillman like saying like Al Horford just like preaching consistency, and like if you do these things, you're gonna have a long career. And like this dude, it's legit LeBron level durability, man, at this age. Yeah, shout out everybody in the chat. As soon as you said Esky and boot, I was like,
I don't know the other words for these things. So let's bring up this comment from Jazz off here. Esky and boot, very Aussie. Do you know Esky is it like an ice box? What?
It's just a cooler.
A cooler, okay.
Cooler.
And a boot is like a trunk.
Trunk, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. As the half American on the show, I can kind of
I don't know. I got no fucking
code
idea.
switch from Aussie to American when need be. I was like, yes, you're gonna confuse so many people with that one. I love it how simple it can be. But yeah, man, Tillman talking about how important Al Horford is with his work ethic, and like I've said it a million times, dude. If not for LeBron James and how insane he is at this age, more people will be talking about how insane Al Horford is at his age. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of like the retirement home for aging stars here. It's a perfect spot for Al Horford to age gracefully. Like he clearly loves playing for the Celtics, loves being around these guys. And then not to mention, we'll see what happens with the Jrue Holiday contract, but like, hey, you want to play another 4 or 5 years? You stand in the corner and play defense and contend? Yeah. Come down here. And shout out Trey on Twitter. I forget if I haven't pulled it. I don't think we've got this one. I think I pulled it off the StreamYard, but it's like the meme of an old lady at a retirement home with a walker, and then the carer at the retirement home walking
another one.
her back to their room. And it's like, back in my day, we locked up LeBron James in a game 7. It's like Al Horford and Jrue Holiday had battles against LeBron James like 10 years ago.
Yeah, dude.
And now they're still dominating the league, just in a different way.
Al Horford went up against the Paul Pierce Wizards and won. Like that was 2015, and that was not like a new to the league Al Horford as well. That's how old he is. So it's insane how amazing he still is. He also, in this game, it was early in the game, he had that steal. He was, I think, guarding Devin Booker up like above the 3-point line and disrupted the pass, got the steal. It kind of looked like, not necessarily a kick ball violation, but it was like off the knee. And sort of just got out in transition and finished. And this was after he kind of a missed bunny a couple of possessions earlier, so he was kind of angry. But for him to, first of all, as the center, get that perimeter steal, recover the ball, run the length of the court at his age, and finish under some duress. Like, regular season game in March, Jake. That's fucking crazy.
Dude.
That is insane.
You honestly can't say enough. But like, this is important, man. Like, this, like, he should be getting more buzz as Sixth Man of the Year because he's able to do it coming off the bench. He's been able to do it as a starter a bunch as well. Like, this is really, really important for the Celtics. Like, you talk about, like, Porzingis insurance. I already talked about that today. He can do it. But, like, he's a legit piece off the bench that gives you real versatility. Like, the backup big men in the NBA are, like, in the Eastern Conference or in all over the NBA. Like, outside of the Clippers, I mean, the Celtics have the best front court rotation in the NBA, like, easily, like, from a depth perspective, from a high-end talent perspective as well. Like, the Bucks backup 5 is kind of like they play Giannis at the 5 or Bobby Portis at the 5, which is often a disaster. The Heat have Thomas Bryant as their backup 5. Mm-hmm. The Magic kind of have a nice one. Goga Bitadze has been good, but it's like the Nuggets don't have one. It's just Aaron Gordon at the 5. And that's worked really well for them at times as well. But, like, to have a guy that can play next to KP, next to Tillman, switch everything, or play as the lone big, be stretch big, and play and drop, like, whatever you need. And then, like, offensively, And Drew Holiday's comments are so accurate. It's like, I know when I'm playing with Al, things are going to go right because he always makes the right play. And like, he could feel it at times. He's like, I know I have to be aggressive and take some of these more contested threes. I know I can make them, but it's like, it's important to right now, these possessions, we're having some issues offensively. Just got to get shots on goal. And man, he's turned into like a fucking real shooter, like elite shooter for a big man. Like coming off, like off the catch, quick trigger, transition. It's awesome. I mean, in the chat here, rebounding was an issue in the first half, but we can touch on that in a second.
Oh, second chance points was a huge problem. The problem and the reason that the Suns were even in it early, but we tidied that up as the game went on. And that was a team effort. Like we had Sam Hauser flying in for rebounds at times, and it was clearly, and we've seen this before, especially in the second half of the season. Early on, we get burnt by second chance points, and it's like quick timeout. Joe's like, wake the fuck up, guys. And then we see that as a huge point of emphasis as tidying that up, and it sort of dissipates as a problem. And that was the case in this game as well. But in the case of Al Horford, he kind of hit the dagger, the corner three-point dagger in this one. And credit to Spoonie for calling out that the Celtics have been running horn sets prolifically lately. And this one, this is better. You're better off watching this if you're listening to the audio feed. This is a horn set where Derek White is screening for a cutting Jaylen Brown with JT as the ball handler. And like credit to any defense who floats in towards the cup to cover Jaylen Brown of all people in favor of leaving Al Horford alone in the corner there, which is like that's the correct move. Like, of course, you want to cover a cutting Jaylen Brown, and Derek White does an awesome job of setting like a really effective screen to allow Jaylen to cut into that space. But you've got Drew in the far corner. You've got Al Horford in the corner closest to the screen there. And that is just elite spacing.
Yeah.
There's so many options out of that action, Jake. It's like, and this is just what we went to like, okay, it's time to win the game. Let's go to like the most effective as fuck action possibly imaginable with this lineup. And they got one of the best shots in the league out of it, which is a wide open corner three for an incredible 3-point shooter in Al Horford.
It's just great execution. And I think, this isn't going to go down in clutch time. The clutch time numbers are always weird, like, because it has to be very specific. But, like, if they don't execute, because the Suns went on, like, a 7-0 run before Tatum and stuff came back in, and it was, like, the lead got cut to 14 with, like, 6-7 minutes. And it's like, okay, well, these next possessions are really important, because then if we can play well for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, the game's over. And when they execute a play like that, it gives me confidence. It makes me feel good going into the playoffs. Like, it's just when they get away from that, you can get frustrating. So it's like, you love to see them when they need something, then they know to get back to an action like that. And I think it's a symptom of the offense being really positive when you're getting actions like that. Yeah, you're leaving Al Horford wide open in the corner. It's, the top of the key shot, I think it might be his favorite shot, but like, he's just like, how many big corner three shots has he hit in the past like 2-3 years, regular season and playoffs? Like in what game was it? Oh, it was the other Suns game. Ironically, right? He goes 0 for 6, and the biggest shot of the game swings to Al Horford in the corner, bang, knocks it down, 1 for 7 on the night, but hits the shot of the game. Like,
yeah, similar play.
He's the guy. He's the guy.
Great idea for an Instagram clip. Actually, I gotta check out how similar those plays were. I can't remember if the first one was horns. I think it was Drew like slipping a basic pick and roll screen.
Yeah. But it made
similar action regardless.
Yeah, exactly. So the way that they defended it maybe was a little bit different, and so they make it instead of Tatum making that read to Derek on the short roll, then it's the help comes from Horford's corner, and that's where the pass is supposed to go. And it's good offense.
Yeah, no, it's a really good call. Hell yeah, Al. We love Al Horford. He's great. I'm basically at the misc points. Like, I think we've hit on all the primary points from this one, Jake. I will say before we start to wrap this one up, got 122 people here watching Celtics Late Night. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe to the First of the Floor YouTube channel and the audio podcast feed, which is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere that you prefer your pods. Obviously, the more subs we get on this channel, the more likes we get on this video, the more this channel is put in front of more people, the more appealing we are to potential guests like Jake. I don't know if I've ever told you this before. Brian Scalabrine apparently doesn't get out of bed for at least 20,000 subscribers.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're at 3 point something. So subscribe to the channel and help us get it there so we can get Brian Scalabrine on the show at some point. Any misc points, any like finer points that you're yet to bring up on this one, Jake?
I mean, like on the offensive rebounding, like they had 19 offensive rebounds on the game, which is just an insane number. And Nurkic has been a rebounding machine. 13 in the first half to 1, 13 to 1 in the first half. And that was the only reason the game was close.
Yeah.
And then 6 to 5 in the second half. And like, that's been something that's happened a lot in the post All-Star break section of the season as well, is that the Celtics have adjusted in the second half a bunch of different ways. And I'm not sure if if they made a schematic adjustment. I didn't personally pick anything up from a rebounding perspective, but clearly there was a mental focus, or, maybe Nurkic wore down, which, going back to Al Horford, is kind of hilarious that he outlasted Yusuf Nurkic, who's the much younger player. Like, I actually think they didn't play Nurkic much in the fourth quarter because...
Yeah, same as last game.
Yeah, I think that the Celtics started to get comfortable attacking him and getting the Suns in rotation, and so the Suns went to a switch everything defense, and so you can't really do that with Nurkic.
Yeah,
you can't really do that without Nurkic if you're the Suns either, because they don't have defenders that can switch consistently across the board. So I just liked how you have something that's not working or going against you in the first half, and you come out in the second half and you clean it up. Like, that's been a trend in the second half of the season, and something that I think's, again, very important for the playoffs. I just have like random stuff. I don't have the tweet, but Anna Horford, Al Horford's sister, just tweeted a meme about not being able to tell the difference between Al Horford and Tillman, and I'm really glad that she did, because it is really hard to tell between Al Horford and Tillman at times when both of them are just making like really excellent hustle plays, and it's like, oh, Tillman, love the addition. It's like, oh no, that was Al Horford. It's like Al Horford does something, it's like, oh, go Tillman. It's like, no, that was Al. So
you've been validated.
I feel validated now that Al's sister has also done it.
Yeah, me too. That was very confusing. Yeah, so that's a great misc point. Great point to save for the miscellaneous portion of the show.
Thank you.
Just Nurkic very quickly. He played 20 minutes in the first half and 11 in the second. And talking about second half disparities, Kevin Durant, who played 17 and a half minutes in the second half, 2 of 8 from the floor for just 5 points, where he was like cooking pretty well in the first half there. So great to see the Celtics sort of adjust to that. But like I said at the top of the show, Jake, like, first of all, Durant was 7 of 8 in the first half, 15 points, 87.5% from the floor. So yes, the Celtics obviously adjusted their defense, but I do feel like the Suns kind of like went away from him a little bit, or like didn't try and get the ball in the hands of their best player, and rather tried to get Devin Booker cooking or tried to get Bradley Beal cooking, like, which was just not happening. Seems crazy to me to have one of the most prolific scorers of all time on your team and not just spam that on every possible attempt.
That's kind of like who KD has been at times, as he kind of can fade a little bit in and out. And Booker is supposed to be like the number one on the team, kind of. But Durant's been better than Booker this year, like, pretty easily. And so, yeah, it looked like we were going to get a repeat of the first Suns game early in the first quarter. But thankfully he did cool off a little bit. Maybe, and he was turning the ball over a fair bit as well. Like, he had 2 turnovers in the first half, 3 total on the game. But yeah, the Celtics just kept coming defensively, physically, and Durant, they started to send help at him, and you can kind of get him off balance. He's kind of like the inverse of Jokic. It's like if you stop doubling Jokic, it feels like you've lost, as opposed to Durant. That's kind of a good way to slow him down. But yeah, I this comment here, we can't play 11 guys in the playoffs. We won't play. How many did we play tonight? I mean, like, we played 9, like, proper rotation players today, right? The 5.
Yeah, 10
Hauser,
in total.
Cornet. Yeah, like
Oh,
O'Shea
yeah,
technically
O'Shea.
played, but it's 9. And it's going to shrink as series and you get shorter. You start off. Is it the Jeff Van Gundy-ism? Like, you start the series with 8 or 9. You trust 7, but you play 6 by the time you get to the end of the series. That's just kind of how it
Celtics
goes.
employee, Jeff Van Gundy.
That's
So
right.
we're never going to be subscribed to that. What
Without
about...
KP. Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Dude, the
without KP.
Celtics just became super deep all of a sudden. Like,
Yeah, dude.
everybody was like,
Player
oh,
development.
They got the top 6. Yeah, play development, chemistry. Brad Stevens bringing in a bunch of guys that are like really fun and easy to play with, can play a variety of styles, and yeah, it works.
Luke Cornett just being fucking awesome at DHOs and setting screens and pretty acceptable defensively also, we'll say, for lack of a better term. But what about Xavier the Teabag Tillman in this one? Who Teabag T, who very, very versatile defensively, which is something we've been celebrating since his acquisition. But again, hit another 3 in this game. It looks like the 3-point shot is coming along. And I think it was Eric Weiss in the playback who called this out, is like his connective passing, which when we acquired Derek White was kind of like the thing we celebrated initially. Like, he's going to be this connective tissue for an already really talented team. And he was that initially and became so much more subsequently. And I feel like, not to say that Xavier Tillman is going to get to the lofty heights of Derek White, Jake, but like he has come in and what he's able to contribute early is versatile switching defense, but also being some of that connective tissue offensively as well. And I can't remember the exact play, but I was watching you guys on playback, and we got an offensive rebound, a chance at another possession, chance at another bucket, and Tillman like immediately set this like out of nowhere screen for Drew to open up a cutting Jaylen Brown, I think it was. I'm probably miffing the play, but it was just something like that where in the moment he read the game perfectly and the result was a bucket. And there's so many examples of that in a really small sample size for Teabag Tillman here, so it's good to see.
It's awesome. And Eric Weiss in the chat talking about loving the minutes pairing with Horford. Absolutely. And we talked about this after the Denver game and how people kind of were shitting on Joe, being like, why did we go to the Horford-Tillman thing? And it's like, that's going to be a lineup that can definitely work in the playoffs. Like, you want to have size, but also have switchability, and you have got guys that can like make decisions with the ball in their hands. Like, there was a moment like tonight where it was like, who was it? It was Horford, Tillman, and it felt like it was Hauser, and then Drew and Jaylen maybe. And so like, the offense got a little stuck in the mud a little bit, but like, because you don't have like guys that can really break them down on the perimeter. But like in the playoffs, there's going to be less Hauser, and you're going to have more Derek, more Jason, more Jaylen, more Drew. And so you have more ball handlers, more decision makers paired with like the sturdiness and consistency of those guys. It's beautiful. John Littlefield. It's going to be tough at this point. That's the nickname
that's my bad. Hand up. We're working on it. It's so ingrained in my brain right now. I can't really go away from it. But
T-Man.
But yeah, noted. Your feedback is noted.
Unfortunately, most of the feedback's been quite positive on that one. But
unfortunately,
another miscellaneous point is Paul Pierce was in the building. Paul Pierce, not only in the building for the game tonight, but you see him. He was in I'm sure you see everything Celtics related. So I know you've seen Paul Pierce doing his circuit this morning, telling everybody they need to get their own ladder climbing machine, which I found hilarious. I was like, yes, Paul Pierce, I too would like to be able to have unlimited access to the Auerbach Center. And then he daps up Sam Cassell, and then he's in TD Garden hyping people up on the elevator. He's hyping people up in the Garden. I just love how much he loves being a Celtic and bleeding green. And it just in the building in the building, perfect game.
It's been a while since we've seen him as well, because there was that whole thing of the 08 squad being called back at the beginning of the season. They were around during training camp. They were present early in the season, and then we haven't really seen them. And so for Paul Pierce to suddenly be back and present as we ramp up towards the playoffs, maybe it's part of the overall holistic playoff ramp up. But that workout looked rough. I don't know what you call it, like the plank rows, which is like a core exercise, but also a back exercise with dumbbells. It's not that difficult, and he was really struggling through.
Hey, that was the end. That was the end, though. That was the end of the workout. Yeah. That was the end of that part of the...
Maybe it was like set 10 in a Tabata circuit. No, I don't know, but he looked like he was struggling.
He definitely that's like his detox place, I think. So he goes
sweating
out,
the booze out the pores.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To quote the great Paul Pierce, Monica, pull up. So, he's just oscillating between the version of Paul Pierce that got fired from ESPN and the version of Paul Pierce that's getting locked in for the playoffs, and I'd love to see it.
So to wrap up here, a couple of miscellaneous points. Someone asked in the chat earlier, are we worried about Kristaps Porzingis' injury? You and Spoonie talked about this on the First of the Floor podcast yesterday. I heard Jay King talking about this on his podcast recently, where he was watching KP work out prior to the last Suns game in the arena, and he said he looked spry, he looked good, he looked happy, didn't look hampered in any way. So... and then it was Corrales who mentioned the way that they evaluate guys and their readiness to play a game is they have strength baselines for a variety of different movements, and they test them regularly. And if they don't hit that baseline, or if they fall just short of it, they can sort of detect a weakness or a pre-injury in a certain area of the body if they're not hitting that milestone. So I know nothing, obviously, but I suspect that's sort of the region that Porzingis is in, and given where we're at in the season, again, I suspect that they're being extremely cautious and holding him out as a result. But if it were the playoffs, again, I suspect he could play today, Jake. Are you worried at all, given what we don't know?
I'm not worried yet. I'm not worried. I'm on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 2. I'm a 2 out of 10 on the worried scale. This is the time, right? We all know how important KP is, and we've all talked about how we want to just put him in bubble wrap until the playoffs. And so, this is exactly what they should be doing. If they have detected anything, there's any reason for him to not be playing right now, then he should not be playing. And yeah, so if he doesn't play until the Bucks game, then my concern level probably starts to go up to a 4. So we'll see. But that's another fair few days away. I would love to have him for the Bucks game. Mm-hmm. So hopefully maybe he comes back for. Because we got a back-to-back. We got 2 days off now, I believe, right? And then we have a back-to-back against the Pistons and the Wizards. So that would be, and that's a great spot because you don't need both KP and Al in either of those games in order to secure wins. So hopefully maybe KP plays in the second half of the back-to-back. You get an extra day rest, or you just rest him all the way out to the Bucks game. Well, whatever is the safe decision. But I'm all good right now.
Multiple people in the chat calling out that we've clinched a playoff spot with what happened tonight. Yeah, I know. Amazing. I dare say we might clinch the first seed coming up soon. I'm pretty much out. Eric Weiss mentioned in the chat we should check out Drew's shooting stats.
Agreed.
That's worthy of more of a deep dive. But if I asked you, Jake, what is Drew Holiday shooting from 3 percentage-wise in the past 10 games?
10
3
games.
overall. Not just the corners, but 3 overall. What would your guess be? It's very high.
I know he's at 44-ish% for the season. He has been nuts lately. I don't know. Let's go 40, 46.
Wow, 46.7%.
Hey, let's go.
That is amazing, Jake. Well done.
Very specific knowledge floating around in this brain that thankfully the people that are here listening appreciate.
Anything else you want to touch on? I kind of want to touch on the 15th roster spot if you've got a couple of minutes. I know we're running along here, but the Isaiah Thomas has kind of come up in people's heads because of a recent John Corrales pod, and that's kind of circulated a little bit. And he made some good points, Corrales, on his pod in the pro IT stance of Brad Stevens is sort of weirdly still in love with Isaiah Thomas, and like if you mention Isaiah Thomas around Brad Stevens, he like softens a bit and has like a sort of a clear visceral reaction to the bringing up of IT. I don't know, like would you be up for, given that we clearly don't need to really utilize that spot from an on-court perspective? Are you of the mindset that that would be a good way to utilize that spot, or do you think it's maybe too much of a distraction at this point?
Just on the Brad softening type thing, like Brad is absolutely a sentimental individual, but at the same time, he shipped out Marcus Smart and is a calculated basketball GM killer at the same time. So I think whatever he thinks is correct from a chemistry perspective for the team is what he'll do. I just think there is the smallest chance of it being a weird vibe. Like, as long as he is 100% fine with never playing, like that has to be a non-negotiable. Is that you cannot care about playing, and so there's that piece of it. But then like the crowd and the fans, like I'm with you, Blorp. Like it's gonna be so hard for me to not be like, gosh, should we just get IT out there? We're having some troubles on offense. Want a little
instead of Pritchard.
Hey, just a little IT Horford pick and pop for old time's sake. Why not? So, like, as long as they can like have a real conversation, and IT can be like, yep, hand over heart, do not care about playing, then sure, bring him in. I'm sure I'll love it. But I just think that has a chance of being a bit of a weird from that perspective.
If you had to choose between IT and Blake Griffin to fill this spot, Jake, who would be your choice?
Blake. And IT is like one of my favorite Celtics of all time. Like that IT season is the most fun I've ever had as a Celtics fan. Like that season just was unbelievable. I love him, but this is not the time to be fucking around, you know?
Yeah, and as far as the vibes, Blake Griffin is to some of the guys on this team what IT is to us. You know, like most of them didn't play with Isaiah Thomas, although Al Horford and Jaylen Brown did. But you know, a lot more of them played with Blake Griffin last year. Yeah, I suppose not that many more, but Jason Tatum is like your best player who you want to empower the most.
Well, Blake was there with Derek, so
Pritchard,
Derek Pritchard,
Hauser,
all the Boss One boys, dude. So. He's absolutely much closer to this team than IT would be to this team. So, yeah. I'm easy on that.
We'll see. It ultimately does not matter at all.
Another miscellaneous fact for you. Kate on Twitter, CAIT. Great follow. The furthest the Celtics have to travel for the rest of the regular season is New Orleans. In fact, they have to play again on the West Coast. They won't have to play again on the West Coast this season until it's in June, potentially. So the schedule, not only from a quality, but also from like a travel perspective, is pretty light as well, which is good for hamstrings and things of that nature as well. So, do
you think Joe Mazzulla put a bunch of money inside one of the ceiling tiles in Denver?
I wouldn't be shocked if he did something weird. Well, not something weird, but something like, something like that. Derek White's dad noted that all of the starters played Larry Bird minutes tonight. I mean, that every single player played 33 minutes, which is a very random and cool quirk. So
that's a good reduction, though, from what we've been used to, especially for JT. So you'd love to see it. So this has been fun, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We will throw this up on the podcast feed just because the vibes are so immaculate after this game, this win against the Suns, this somewhat unlikely win, as we called it, based on some of the circumstances going into this one.
No, so we're only like 5-point favorites going into this one. Like we weren't heavy favorites at all. So
I don't know. Is that sarcasm or
no? Like the Celtics don't get that. Like we've been underdogs like twice this year, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. And so to be at home and be only 4 or 5 point favorites is pretty low relative to a bunch of other games. So that was a nice win for sure.
Yeah, seriously good win. Well, look, folks in the chat, thanks for hanging out. We really appreciate all of you. We'd appreciate you even more if you hit that like button, like the stream, put the show in front of more people, help us attract the Brian Scalabrinis of the world to the show. Subscribe to the First on the Floor YouTube channel, the podcast. Join our Discord, which has become a real hub of beautiful Celtics minds, much smarter than us, and information that we're able to glean and use on the podcast ourselves. Jake, love your work, mate. Until next time, go Celtics.